When we talk about predators out in the wild referring to other species, we're typically talking about an aggressive, dangerous animal who hunts for survival. Like, you don't blame a lion for hunting a zebra. They're not doing it out of malice, they're doing it because they need to eat, right? But when we talk about a human predator, we're talking about someone who hunts for sport or fun rather than survival or necessity. They're not being aggressive to survive, like say someone taking part in crime because they don't think they have another way to pay the bills. Rather, they're being aggressive because it's fun to them. There's something very sadistic about it. They've turned other people's pain into a sport. So today, that's what we're going to be talking about. What are the signs of a human predator? So that you know who to protect yourself from. And just to be clear, I'm not specifically talking about a sexual predator in this video, although I think you'll find a lot of what I'm about to talk about will also apply to them. Let's get started. Number 1, predators pick on the vulnerable. Just like how a predator out in the wild identifies the weakest of the pack, the youngest, the slowest, whatever it is, they identify that as their prey. So too do human predators scope out their victims. Vulnerability means someone more easily harmed than the general population. In the textbook sense, vulnerability can be a child, someone with a disability, either someone with the mind of a child or someone who can't function independently, someone who doesn't have a lot of financial means to escape from dangerous situations. Vets are considered a vulnerable population, inmates are considered a vulnerable population, and so on. But vulnerability can also mean someone unassertive or unconfident who struggles to say no, someone who's been victimized in the past, someone going through a temporary circumstance that leaves them vulnerable, such as a recent medical problem, a recent divorce, moving locations, a job that requires sleep deprivation, being a new parent, a sudden financial loss, the sudden loss of social support, grief, having a very high stress environment. This is why, for instance, often predators will scope out minors who are struggling at home, who are struggling with their parents, because they know that person is already vulnerable. Or another example, chronic cheaters who specifically pick partners they know have been cheated on. Predators seek out vulnerability because deep down they feel insecure. And giving themselves an easy target makes it more likely that they'll win the hunt and get the sought-after ego boost. They're cowards. They're not looking for a fair fight. Number 2, predators lack empathy. Not all people who lack empathy are predators, but all predators lack empathy. They're not swayed by people's attempts at getting them to feel empathy for them. Like if you're telling your partner, my ex cheated on me in this specific way and I cried myself to sleep for weeks, they're not going to hear that and go, oh my God, I'm so sad for you. In fact, they're more likely to use your sob story against you in the future, which is why if you're dealing with a predator, I don't know if you've ever noticed, if you tell them about a way you were hurt in the past, they will make sure to hurt you in that same exact way. Getting a predator to feel pity or sympathy or empathy or compassion for you is a losing game. They like when you have to beg for mercy, when you have to beg for their empathy. It's what makes them feel big inside. It makes them feel powerful. Related to this, predators enjoy making others suffer. That's their whole idea of fun. Making others suffer is their idea of sport or entertainment. A common example is revenge. If someone pisses them off, that puts a target on that person's back. They're now going to make their entire life goal getting revenge on that person, right? So let's say you're at work, you're in a meeting with your boss and your coworkers, and one of your coworkers says something that makes you look bad in front of your boss. You as a predator are now going to sabotage that coworker in every way you can, gossiping about them, triangulating them, taking credit for their work, blaming them for things that weren't their fault. But it's not just about revenge. Predators just like to make others suffer. It's their idea of fun. Essentially, they have a sadistic side. It's very scary to deal with someone who has a sadistic side because there's just no getting through them. There is no trying to elicit empathy whatsoever. They just don't care. In fact, they like to make you suffer. For some reason, I recently was thinking about like a former friendship that I had, and I'm going to change the circumstances of what I'm describing completely. So like even if that person were to watch this video, they would not know it's about them. So let's say me and this girl, Abby, were friends during one of our classes in college. And one time another girl from class sat with us at the cafeteria. And Abby was being so friendly to her. She invited this other girl to her birthday party. But the day of her party, this girl started texting Abby being like, hey, can you give me the details of the party? And Abby started playing dumb, as if she had no idea what this girl was talking about. Like, why would she want to be invited to my birthday party? And I remember being like, I was there and like, I remember you inviting her. Like maybe I'm misremembering. Like what's happening right now? Like why are you pretending you didn't invite her? Essentially, bullies like this are predators. They toy with other people's feelings just for fun, for no other purpose than just to make the other person suffer. Also related to that lack of empathy I was talking about, predators objectify and dehumanize others. If you don't feel empathy for another person, you're essentially not seeing their human experience. If you're not seeing them as a human being, you're seeing them as an object. You can pretty much justify any sort of cruelty against them, right? Like if I were to say like, hey, punch this person in the face, you'd be like, no, what the hell? But if I were to tell you, punch this teddy bear in the face, you might do it if you had to, and you wouldn't feel a lot of remorse because it's not a human being. It's not a sentient live organism. This also works on a cultural level when we dehumanize groups of people, like somebody in like an ethnic group or like a religious group that's hostile with our own. We start to justify the most egregious crimes against humanity because it's like, well, this person, like, they're not actually a human being. They belong to like a group of vermin in my eyes. You cannot get someone to have mercy on you who is determined to dehumanize you. Which is why, like, for instance, when you're trying to like reason with people who are being aggressive online, for instance, it doesn't usually work because they're not like face to face with you. They don't see that you're a human being. It's difficult for people online to understand that they're interacting with a human being. And that's why people are always getting into fights in the comments, for instance, because it's like, you don't realize you're talking to a human being, hopefully it's not a bot, right? And that's why it can devolve so quickly into just like brutal hostility. Predators are also deceptive. They rely on deception to entrap their victims and to keep their victims ensnared. It could look like love bombing, like coming in really strong with these like grand promises in the beginning, catfishing, like pretending to be someone else online so that you can like meet up with a person. Mirroring the other person, like studying them, figuring out what they like, what they're like, and trying to like inhabit what you think they want so that you can sort of ensnare them that way. Or certainly just like flat out lying about things. Lying about their history, lying about their current life, lying about their relationship status, lying about anything, even small things like, did they have the last slice of ham? They lie because it's fun to them. It's like wearing a mask, like I love Halloween. I love like dressing up as someone I'm not. There's a level of like excitement about like pretending you're something you're not. Also, it helps ensnare their prey tighter, right? Like often their lies are used instrumentally as a manipulation tactic, and it masks feelings of shame. If they lie about things that they secretly feel insecure about, then they can feel like, oh, I'm this big, strong man. Like I'm pretending to be this 6'2" jock while catfishing this woman because I'm insecure about being 5'10" or something. Predators also isolate their victims. Just like how animal predators will get the smallest zebra away from the pack, when the pack is united, it's much harder to get any prey. Just the same with humans. An isolated human is a vulnerable human, so they might try to badmouth your other relationships, or just generally have an issue with everyone in your life, but especially the people who see them for what they are. They might try to sabotage said relationships, like in The Sopranos, how Chris, pretends that Adriana's friend made a move on him because he doesn't trust her. They might try to convince you to quit your job so that you're isolated that way. On a societal level, people who are predators high up might try to isolate us from other people, might try to sow divide within party lines or between party lines. They might try to intentionally cultivate a lonely population because, again, it makes it much easier to control people that way. Predators also try to dominate others through power. Predators seek power over others, either because of fragile self-esteem or because of thrill seeking, because it gives them a thrill. Ways of seeking power could be choosing a career that gives you power over other people. That's why I have a huge distrust for politicians in part. Or say wanting to open a business not out of genuine passion for that field, but because they want to boss other people around and then being a nightmare boss. Being very controlling with romantic partners, trying to control group dynamics and friendships and family, whatever it may be. For example, you can totally tell a boss who really gets a power rush versus a boss who's just trying to do their job. I've had both, honestly. I've had bosses who were super cool and nice and chill. And then I also have seen what bosses look like when they abuse their power. Because ultimately, if a predator isn't dominating their relationships, they don't feel like they're winning. And their entire goal is to win the hunt. And if they can't win for some reason, they're either going to move on to an easier target, or they're going to seek revenge, or a combination of the two. So in conclusion, please beware of these signs of a human predator. They pick on the vulnerable. They lack empathy. They're unmoved by things that would elicit empathy in others. They enjoy making others suffer through revenge, bullying, harassment. They objectify and dehumanize their prey. They're deceptive, they lie, they mislead, they generally cannot be trusted. They try to isolate their prey. They seek power in every context and will try to dominate others with whatever power they manage to hold. I'm genuinely curious, when you hear this list, does it remind you of anyone from your life? I would love to hear how this actually looks. It's all fine and dandy to talk about theory, but I'd love to hear some of your experiences actually dealing with a predator out in the wild, as it were. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.